In the beginning, long before our modern world was born, before cities and machines, there existed a kingdom that lived in constant fear. The people of that land spoke in whispers about a creature so powerful, so terrifying, that even the bravest warriors refused to speak its true name. They called it only one thing: the darkness that breathes. It was not a beast in the way we know animals. It was not human, though it once wore the shape of one. The legend says it was born from human greed and anger, a punishment created by the gods themselves. Every scream, every fear, every tear shed in terror gave this creature strength. The more frightened people became, the larger and deadlier it grew. Entire villages fell to its hunger. People would lock their doors at night, praying to see the sunrise, but when dawn arrived, silence would cover the land. No footsteps, no voices, no life. It was as if the earth itself had swallowed them. The rulers of the kingdom knew that no weapon could kill it. Arrows shattered, blades melted, and even fire turned cold in its presence. They turned to priests, shamans, and scholars for answers. And after years of desperate searching, a terrible truth was discovered: the monster could never be destroyed. It could only be imprisoned. So the kingdom gathered its strongest blacksmiths and carved chains from a sacred metal said to be blessed by the sun. These chains were not ordinary. They glowed faintly, carrying inscriptions of protection and light. But even those were not enough. The ritual to bind the creature required blood, human sacrifice. Thousands volunteered, knowing they would never return. They gave their lives, their souls, their very existence, to forge a prison beneath the earth. At last, the monster was trapped inside a vast underground tomb. The walls were carved with warnings, curses, and prayers to keep it asleep. The earth was sealed above it, and over time, grass grew, rivers flowed, and the world forgot. Centuries passed. The kingdom itself vanished from history. New nations rose, new wars were fought, and the monster became nothing more than a bedtime story, a myth to scare children into obedience. But myths are only forgotten truths. 1,000 years later, in a desert where the kingdom once stood, a team of modern archaeologists arrived. They were searching for treasures, relics, proof of a civilization lost to time. At first, they found small things: pottery, coins, bones of ancient kings. But then, deep beneath the sand, they uncovered something far greater: a massive stone door. Its surface was covered in strange carvings, symbols that no one could fully understand. Among them, a single phrase was translated: "Disturb not the sleeper, or darkness shall walk again." For most of the team, it was just superstition. But greed is louder than caution. The possibility of discovering the tomb of an entire forgotten civilization was too tempting. Against warnings, they drilled, cut, and finally forced the door open. The moment it cracked, the earth trembled. The air grew colder, the sand shifted unnaturally, and the desert winds howled as though the land itself was warning them. But the team pressed on. They descended into the tomb, cameras and lights capturing every step. What they found was breathtaking. Massive chains, still glowing faintly after 1,000 years, wrapped around a colossal figure. And then one of the chains snapped. The noise was deafening, echoing like thunder through the underground halls. Dust rained from the ceiling, and the carvings on the wall began to glow as if alive. The archaeologists froze in terror as the impossible happened. Two enormous eyes, red as fire, opened in the darkness. The monster had awoken. At first, it did not move. It simply stared, and in that silence, every member of the team felt their hearts pounding. Some swore they heard whispers in their minds, voices of the dead, promises of power and destruction. Then, without warning, the creature took its first breath. The sound was like a storm, rattling the walls, shaking the ground. Panic erupted. The team tried to flee, but the darkness itself seemed alive. Lights failed, cameras shattered, and screams echoed one after another. When search teams later arrived, only fragments of equipment were found. No bodies, no survivors. Only one recording was recovered, ending with the words, "It's awake." The monster had risen into a world it did not recognize. Cities, machines, airplanes, these things confused it. But fear? Fear was eternal. Fear tasted the same as it had 1,000 years ago. Reports began to spread in nearby towns. People spoke of shadows moving where no shadows should be, entire groups disappearing without a trace. Survivors described a figure larger than any human, with eyes that glowed like fire in the fog. Governments called it superstition, rumors. But soon, entire villages went silent overnight, and the truth could no longer be denied. Military forces were sent. Tanks, missiles, aircraft, all unleashed their fury. But the monster was untouchable. Bullets passed through it like smoke. Explosions only made it angrier. Soldiers screamed as shadows swallowed them whole. Technology meant nothing against something born of fear itself. Amid this chaos, one historian named Michael discovered the truth. He traced the ancient carvings, piecing together the forgotten language of the kingdom. His research revealed what the ancestors already knew. The monster thrived on fear. The more humanity panicked, the stronger it became. And the only way to weaken it was to deny it fear. But how could anyone stand without fear in front of such horror? How could humanity stare into the red eyes of a nightmare and remain unbroken? Michael realized the answer lay not in weapons, but in sacrifice, the same way the ancients had bound it before. The tomb's inscriptions described a ritual that required one soul willing to surrender themselves, to give their courage and life force to strengthen the chains once more. Without that, the monster would walk the earth forever. With no other choice, Michael and a small group of survivors returned to the ruins of the tomb. The ground shook with every step of the creature approaching. Its roar shattered the night, windows breaking for miles around. Standing before it, the survivors trembled, but Michael stepped forward, calm in the face of terror. He spoke the words inscribed on the tomb. "If fear feeds you, then let my courage starve you." The monster roared, charging at him. But as Michael's voice grew stronger, the ancient chains burst from the earth, glowing once again with sacred light. They wrapped around the monster, pulling it down, binding it in pain and fury. The ground split open, swallowing both Michael and the creature into darkness. Silence followed. The survivors wept, but they knew the historian had saved them. The monster was sealed once more. Humanity had been given another chance. But even as the earth closed above, legends warn that nothing stays buried forever. The chains will weaken, time will erode, and one day, when the world forgets again, the monster will rise once more. Because evil never truly dies. If you enjoyed this, watch my next explanation, even more terrifying.